Hello, we just finished our Maple League University's Better Together teaching series. Ask us anything about anti Black racism in education. And we're very proud to say that we created a brave space for our participants to get the answers to some questions they wanted. And so we hoped that our series helped people move from the fear zone to the learning zone. And so we had four questions submitted, and I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Ronello, who answered the first question.
Great. So this question is very has multiple components and can be answered in a very longer session. But the quick of it is question yourself, make yourself uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to be uncomfortable, and challenge yourself to get there, to not always center yourself, but to take a step back, listen, learn, and continue to listen and learn, because it is never finished. As people who are all living in a Western world that has been shaped historically by white supremacist ideas, we all carry these biases along with us. We are all in this, and it doesn't matter how nice or how much of a good person you are, how well-intentioned you are, those things are still there. So it's about taking a step back, listening, learning, reading as much as you can, not putting yourself into the conversation as you know, feeling attacked or feeling like it's about you, but actually simply challenging what you see, challenging what you think is normal, what you think is natural, and undermining it from the core, from the interior. Starts with you and then expands outside. And I'll hand it over to Ronald, who looked at the second question.
I looked at the second question, and the answers that I have provided is that we need to diversify our curriculum. We can certainly learn from the great thinkers who are part of the accepted canons, but we can also challenge the accepted canons. We can sometimes even dismantle the canons in order to read otherwise. Otherwise could be a different other or wiser. So we can use a curriculum that is wider, that is more diversified, so that we may be able to understand and listen to voices that are different and many times that are challenging to some of the accepted voices or conclusions. So I also talked about the politics of citation. Who do we cite? Who do we read? So it is important that we read voraciously, that we read broadly, that we do what Edward Said called contrapuntal readings. That is, we read authors asking questions and challenging some of the other authors or texts that we usually take for granted. That is, conclusions that we usually take for granted. We also can look at postcolonial analysis or subaltern studies to question some of the histories that we have taken as normative. We can read history from below. We can read differently. So these are some of the points that I have raised in my own answer to that beautiful and important question.
Thank you. And the third question that was submitted ahead of our session was, what are some ways I can support Black students during this time? And the answer to that, or some of the things that I suggested during our session, and remember, it's not only during this time, it's during all times, is the fact that we have to know who our students are. We have to understand their journey. And so if we're teaching Black students, find out where they're from, find out the history of anti-Black racism in the communities that they're from. If you're teaching in Nova Scotia, understand that anti-Black racism isn't a Southern United States thing. We actually call Nova Scotia the Mississippi of the North because our cultures are such the same. And so we need to understand their journey. We need to listen to their stories. If our Black students are coming to us and telling us stories, we need to listen and we need to validate them. Another step that I suggested during this session was walking students through supports. Understanding the history of anti-Black racism in education, you need to understand that most of the Black students that are sitting in your classrooms had to jump a lot of hurdles to get there. And so if they're asking you for help or asking you for support or not even talking to you at all, remember our jobs as the teachers is to ensure our students' success. And so because we already know, because we live in a white supremacist system, we live in an education system formed by systemic racism, that we need to reach out to the students. We need to grab them by their hand and ask, what can I do to help you? If there are supports available, let's not just say, well, read this book or read that book or go see so-and-so, go to the writing center, go see a counselor. No, walk with them to supports. We all need to make sure that our students sitting in front of us know that we value them, we know they're brilliant, and we're their partners in their success. And the fourth question that was submitted ahead of the session was, I'm a white faculty and just recently have been observing embedded institutional racism within the university, and we wanted to congratulate that person for having their eyes beginning to open. And as I say, once you start seeing it, you can't turn those blinders off. And with our short bit of time and using some anti-racist training, some ways that some things we have to know about being an anti-racist or being an interrupter is, first, if you see racism happening and your eyes have been opened, acknowledge it. A. B. Name it. C. Do something about it. Acknowledge it, name it, do something about it.